So a big welcome to Cameron, who's our first speaker today, who I'm sure many of you will know, but of course I won't steal his thunder. So Cameron, do you want to introduce yourself? And yes, tell us why you're here.
Yes, I'm Cam Scott. I play professional rugby league in the top division over in the UK. Currently playing at Hull FC. I've been diabetic for type 1 for 10 years now. That was just last month. And I've gone through the journey of playing through all the levels and making it to the top. And I've probably been doing that for the best part of 4 or 5 years now. Been a full-time professional for 7 years. And like I say, been through the journey from juniors up until first team now, having diabetes full time. So, it's been a really long process and things that's had plenty of ups and downs, but I've made it, and I'm now a regular in the top comp in the UK.
Fabulous. Thank you, Cameron. So thank you for being here to start with. We really appreciate it. And like the start of most stories, we'll start at diagnosis. So could you talk us a little bit around your diagnosis story, maybe when it was, and yeah, how it came about? How did you feel about it?
Yes, I was diagnosed in February 2014, so like I say, just over 10 years ago. It probably first started towards the end of November in 2013. Just a bit of a strange time. Obviously, exams were coming around at school, and I kind of just put everything down to a bit of stress. My family were the same. We knew something was wrong, but weren't really too sure. Never really had too much about it. So yeah, it just started with me starting to go to the toilet a lot more frequently, and whether that be in school, whether it was home. I was
Hmm.
getting up sometimes, 6, 7, 8 times a night, and as I was going to the toilet, I'd straight away be down in a pint of water next to me.
Yeah.
And again, obviously, there was nothing that we really understood what that was, and that continued for months on end. Started to lose a lot of weight, and I was only 14 at the time, so I didn't have much on me. And I think at one point I ended up down at just below 7 stone, which for a 14-year-old kid was not good for anyone. Struggling to get up in the morning, struggling to concentrate through school days. Playing sport, I had absolutely nothing to me. I was gasping after probably the best part of 10 minutes. And then, like I say, in February 2014, it just got to the point where I crashed. I was in severe ketone acidosis, throwing literally acid up, and just in the worst way possible. And I'd already had a doctor's appointment booked that my mum had sorted for me just to go get seen to. And at that appointment, it was just basically when they said, yeah, you need to be admitted. These are all the symptoms of type 1. And yeah, and that was that really.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Obviously, everyone's diagnosis story is so different, and so it's obviously the symptoms were there, and we do sort of share them symptoms of the 40s, so toilet first, tiredness, thinner. So it is about getting those symptoms out there and making people aware. Thank you for that. So all of this sort of coincides with a career of professional rugby. So how long have you been in the pro game for, and where did you make your breakthrough?
So actually after that diagnosis, I had trials at Bradford, which
Hmm.
obviously were my local professional team. That was 2 weeks after coming out of hospital. So
Wow. Mhm.
I went and did those trials, and just thought, I've got nothing to lose. I didn't really expect to get anywhere from them because physically I was just nowhere near.
Yeah.
And obviously no surprises. I got knocked back from those. So I just kind of took myself away from sport a little bit, from school, from my amateur team, and just kind of got focused on my health. Getting back to a healthy weight, just being healthy really. Anything that was a stress, just kind of took it away, and made sure I was well again. And then end of 2014, that's when I got my scholarship at Bradford. So I had 2 years there, um, through to 16. I then played for England under 16s, um, that later year as well, twice. Um, and then signed an academy deal at Bradford. Um, and things were all looking well. And then Bradford ran into some money trouble, and that was when I had some interest from some other clubs, and Hull came over and offered me my first full time deal at 16, and that was the only team to do so. So I snapped the hands off at that. So yeah, started at 16, and then debuted the year after at 18, and then probably didn't really hit my straps or the potential that I had through that. Captain England Academy, and then probably from 21 onwards now, I've been a regular since then. I'm closing in on 100 career games and not too far off 100 games for Hull as well. So that's kind of over the last 3-4 years where I've made my name really.
Wow, it's amazing how much you've achieved in that time. And even, when you were diagnosed, still pushing through and going to those trials, no matter what, whether you were not back or not, you were still raring to go and wanted to achieve something. So just a massive well done for all that you've achieved. So how do you typically prepare for sort of training, match day? Does it look different or is it the same?
Training's probably a bit different. It's a bit of a longer day.
Hmm.
So, for example, we're playing tomorrow in the derby. It's a 12:30 kickoff. So I'll go eat after this. Tend to have a really high carb meal a bit later on if it's an earlier kickoff. So that'll be that tonight, and then in the morning I always eat 4 hours before kickoff so that everything's in your system ready for when the game starts. So like I say, for a 12:30 kickoff, my last meal will be 8:30 tomorrow morning. Obviously that'll be my last insulin doses as well.
Hmm.
I play with the Freestyle Libre 2, so I've got that fitted. Obviously that monitors everything through training and through games as well. So for games, I always used to have a bit of an issue actually with them, riding really high once a game starts, with all the
Hmm.
adrenaline, things like
Yeah.
that. So to counteract that just before going out for kickoff, probably literally the last 5 minutes of it, I always tend to take 2 units just to make sure that I stay within the range, because as much as I've tried over the years, once you get going in a game, you probably know yourself that
Yeah.
it's pretty difficult to keep them down. So that's kind of what I've worked for myself. As for training, obviously, you have your intense periods in training, but with it being a longer day, I tend not to do that because we've got breaks in between. So it'll just be standard doses, how that is, and my sugars tend to go up when we are out on the field. But then once we've finished and come back in, and we've got a break in between, before the next half of the day, they work their way down anyway. So,
Yeah.
like I say, training's completely different with it being over a longer day. But obviously, with a game day being 80 minutes, that's the full focus, and that's the focus of the week. So there's more around that than when it comes to training.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, like you say, I'm the same with football. I tend to sort of spike when playing. I guess it is more manageable, when you are at training, because, like you say, it's a longer day. You've got breaks. So it's quite interesting to see the difference in it, and the different types of training that you do. I know you do some weight training and then some sort of cardio, and then obviously ball work as well. So does that affect the different types of exercise, affect your blood sugars levels and stuff like that?
Yeah, it does. It's always the more intense. So obviously, heavy gym sessions, they tend to have the spike as well. But then on the field, if it's pretty low key and it's just skill based, you'll barely see anything.
Yeah.
And then if it comes to team on team, and chances are in training you play more high speed games. So again, that spikes the intensity too. So anything with big intensity spikes, or where you feel like your body's really going through it, that's where I have a reaction. But then again, obviously, like there's times where we'll just sit, we'll do movement, skill based stuff, um, and then like I say, there's plenty of different variations, and they all have different effects on my sugars.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So how do the club support you? Do you speak to the lads about it? Do you have a team around you that are they all aware of it? And how do they support you whilst you're playing and things like that?
Yeah, so I rent a place in Hull with a couple of teammates, so they're all clued up on it as well.
Oh, that's good.
Just in case it's a worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got their support, and then obviously all the staff as well. You know, my coach Tony, he asks a fair bit. Because he said it's something I'm quite naive to, and something that he feels like he wants to learn more about. So if he's ever got any issues, he comes to me. Obviously, I've got the medical staff that know the ins and outs of it as well, and they're on top of it. I've had to have some surgeries recently that
Yeah.
they were just double checking to make sure it was no direct link to being type 1.
Hmm.
So they're on top of it. Ever there's a break in play in a game, they're always, just giving me a nudge, making sure I'm all right. And one of our physios always has my phone as well during a game, just so that they can run up and literally tap the back of my arm for my Libra sensor. And so yeah, they're all really on top of it. I think it's kind of something that a lot of people don't understand. So they've really made a conscious effort to understand how it works and how it affects, and how they need to stay on top of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's such an important part of having type 1 if you are. So, your sport, your career. So it is definitely important. It makes you feel a lot more comfortable. All my coaching staff know, and I think it just makes you feel more comfortable when doing something that you enjoy. So yeah, it's nice that they do sort of put their arm around you. And that's really good. Do you know any other rugby players with type 1?
So one of my old coaches was actually type 1,
Ah,
Richard
nice.
Horn, who
Yeah.
played at Hull as well. Played his full career there. So I spoke to him a fair bit when he was coaching. He's not been here for a couple of years now, but
Yeah.
he had the same issues. He developed it from a neck injury.
Right.
So his was later on in life. But obviously, like as most people know, what works for some doesn't necessarily work for others. So, we tried touch base and see what works in that respect. But to have someone who's a bit older and probably had it a little bit longer, and had managed it through the game as well. Literally the same club as well, same club, same team. So that really helps. But if I'm honest, I think I'm probably one of the only ones now in Super League. There was a couple previously, but they've all retired. So yeah, I think I'm flying the flag on my own at the minute.
Well, keep doing it. You're doing it well. So, um, I always like asking this question. So, favorite moment for you in rugby, and also a favorite moment in your career. So, it could be back in grassroots, or it could be more in the pro game. So, any highlights of your career?
Uh, I think captain in England under 18s, that was massive. We played Australia at the end of 2018, and obviously that's the big pinnacle of rugby league over there.
Yeah.
We managed to beat them 2-0 in a series win, so that was massive. I think we're only the second team to do that. So that was massive. And I think even just, finally getting that letter through the door of having an opportunity for a scholarship, after being knocked away, months before, and
Yeah.
obviously being diagnosed, I just think, I probably don't give myself enough credit for actually getting on the board after that, with it being such a difficult time.
Yeah.
But then even now, just to being able to say that my what was once a hobby is now a career. I get to get up every day and do what I enjoy doing, and really get the best out of it. And for a full career, 10, 15 years, I can say that I've barely gone to work, and I think that's probably one of the best things out of it all.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, like you say, I mean, captain in England is a massive, massive proud moment for you, and you should be proud of that. And I'm sure your family are as well. Um, so last couple of questions for you. So, have you ever run into any sort of challenges? I know you've touched a little bit about where you sort of blood spike during games and things like that, but any specific challenges that you've faced?
Yeah, so there was a game last year we played Huddersfield away, and for whatever reason, I still can't put my finger on it now. I just got things completely wrong, with insulin, and
Yeah.
my sugar spiked, and they just weren't coming down. Like they're just nowhere near whatsoever. So obviously, I was spending loads of time going to the toilet pre-game, and
Hmm.
then obviously everything I needed in my body was then leaving my body. So at the time I got to about 35 minutes, and I could start feeling both my calves and both my hamstrings starting to cramp.
Yeah.
So I knew what was wrong. So obviously, as soon as I start feeling cramp, I take the energy gels. But then in return, that was spiking my sugars even more. So in trying to combat it, I actually made it worse. So
Yeah.
I got to about probably 55 minutes in the second half, and chased a kick downfield, and both my calves just cramped up to the point where I couldn't walk, and my hamstrings were screaming as well. So I just had to come off and just literally lay on the sideline and just have a physio try. Try just release my cramp.
Yeah.
So that's probably the worst one. And like I say, obviously I can't really put my finger on it, but I just know I got it all wrong. And obviously everything I needed from pre-match with electrolytes and things like that had just disappeared. So I was pretty much running on empty.
Yeah, and it's like you say, you can't put your finger on it, but I think that's sort of day to day type 1. Sometimes there's different factors that play out with blood sugars, and sometimes you just don't know what the factor is that why it's like that, and
Yeah,
that's quite
yeah,
common. So, yeah, it's something I've definitely had a game like that before, where yeah, I've sort of had my bloods up in 30, and I just didn't know why, and the same, taking on loads of liquids, and yeah, it was just awful. I had to end up coming off in the end as well. So last question for you. So what tips would you pass on to any budding young rugby players? And then also any young type ones on the call as well? Any sort of inspiring last moments for you?
I just think just don't give up on it. It's so easy to just think that it's the end. That you've got a condition, but once you look after it and just accept it for what it is, it's not really a stumbling block. I can't remember life without it now, and I think that's probably the biggest thing. It just becomes part of your day to day, and you know, I think for me personally, I just never wanted to use it as an excuse. It is tough, but that's life. That's how I've got to live with it, and that's how you have to live with it when you're diagnosed. So not to use it as an excuse, but use it to your advantage really. Grab control of it, and there's actually benefits to having it in a sporting sense too. So I think once you've got that diagnosis, just really put your foot down and go for it, and yeah, really give it a go. I think that's what I took best from it is you're not going to change it, so sitting there sulking is probably not going to do you any favors. Just try to get on with the next job.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you. And yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us. Rosie's just popped in the chat there. If anyone does have any questions for Cam, please pop them in the chat and then we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. I know you'll have inspired many young people on the call today, so just a massive thank you. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and you're just an inspiration to all. So thank you for joining us.
No worries, thank you.